everyone. Welcome to our podcast. My sister is Karen. I am Jennifer, and this is my sister Karen.
Hey
And
everyone.
we are just doing a short little burst before you tune into this episode. You should be aware that there's a trigger warning in this episode. And if this episode is not for you, then please come back next week. Karen, you want to chat about that?
This episode we get very real and unfiltered about depression and mental health, including a suicide attempt. And I certainly don't want to trigger anyone else. This is part of my healing process to share my story. If you are not in that place, please just tune in next week. If this is something that's going to be hard for you to listen to because of yourself or someone you know, please don't listen. And we just don't want anyone else to be hurt by what we're saying. And
Always.
if you know someone who needs help, I did talk about calling the 988 hotline, and they are open 24/7 all around the whole nation. If you or someone you know is in crisis, you do not have to be suicidal. You can just be in crisis, and they will still help and listen.
So please, if you're in need of that hotline, use it, 988. Again, if you're in crisis, if you're suicidal, whatever it is, they're there to help. And if this episode is not for you, we appreciate you tuning in for the preemptive bit of it. And feel free to tune out at this point because we're going to turn it over to the actual episode. So when you hear the intro again, that's when the new episode has started. That's the only thing we talk about this week. So don't think you're missing out on anything if that's not for you. And we hope to see you guys back next week when we will talk about something more fun.
Yes. Thanks for listening, guys.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast. My sister is Karen. I'm Jennifer, and this is my sister Karen.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back. These are the conversations that Jennifer and I have when you hear someone say, I need to go call my sister right now. And today is actually going to be a really deep conversation. So before we get deep, though, I do want to say your hair looks really good.
I've had it done last weekend, and then I had that flu last week, and so I didn't wash it.
It's
But
working.
legitimately, like, I had flu. I called out to work. So this morning, yeah, I should have washed it yesterday because I was feeling better. But I was just like, tomorrow I have work and I have like the podcast, and so I watched it this morning and I was like, oh, even my hair is feeling better.
It does. It looks really good.
Thank you. I mean, it makes a big difference when there's not roots showing. Like, I think it makes a huge difference when there's no roots, but also just like everything about it. It just, it's like a good hair day. Like, I don't know. It just all like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It looks really good.
yeah.
Okay. So
So
today, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was going to lead up to what we were going to talk about, but you do it.
So today we are going to talk about depression, specifically my depression. Jennifer has kind of been one of my, I don't want to say she's my only support person because that's not true, but you're one of my main support people and one of the things that I really appreciate about our relationship is you're one of the people that can be honest with me when not everyone else can. Um,
Right,
and I think that's valuable, and I think that everyone needs that.
right. Yeah,
So I've described my mental health on here before as fragile. Let me kind of elaborate about what I mean when I say my mental health is fragile. I am constantly trying to not be depressed. I do have anxiety as well, and anxiety can be an issue. I have panic attacks and stuff like that. Those, however, don't stick around for days. Depression for me can stick around for days, weeks, whatever. So I do things like if I'm in a good place, I don't listen to sad music because I don't want to make myself sad.
yeah,
I don't watch sad movies because and sometimes it can be a freaking commercial, whatever it is. I don't want to put myself in that sad place because I often can't get out of that sad
yeah.
place.
I mean, that's one that we've talked about, like as a family, like that's one that we've talked about a lot over the years is just, you have to watch what Karen gets exposed to because you can take it in so deeply.
Yeah. And I mean, it depends on whatever, sometimes I can handle things fine. Other times it'll take me out for a week. And let me also start by saying I am on my medication. I take meds. I'm currently doing individual and group therapy. I've been on meds and I don't really, I'm not someone who's like, oh, I'm okay. I don't need to take my Prozac anymore. No, I know I'm a mess without it. And I have a cocktail. But so I continue to take my meds. I have over the years, there have been times when I'm like, I'm really bad. Maybe we need to adjust. Maybe we need to increase. Maybe we need to substitute something else, whatever. I don't mess with my meds a lot because for the most part, they work. I have fallen off therapy. There have been times, therapy can be expensive, but over the past 4 or 5 months, I've been really good about doing my weekly individual sessions. And then I also do like told one of my friends, I've been like hyper focusing on my own healing. Like how I normally would like deep dive into what's going on with Taylor and Travis. Right now, I'm deep diving into like, what do you do to help yourself with depression, with anxiety? I do get like racing thoughts and I get intrusive thoughts. Not just this last time, but I will get intrusive. I walk this very fine line when I'm depressed where I'm not suicidal, where I'm going to do something to hurt myself, but I will have intrusive thoughts of things like, well, I could just take home a vial of insulin and one syringe. No one would even know that I killed myself. It would just, or like I'll be riding in a car with someone on the highway and I'll have an intrusive thought of like, I could just open the door and just hop right out. I do not act on these things. And now I get that these are intrusive thoughts. I did not even know what intrusive thoughts were until maybe 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think we had, I don't, again, like going back to like the words that you add to the vocabulary in a culture, I don't think we had words for things like intrusive thoughts or, yeah, I don't think we had a definition for that.
and it's
I mean,
hard
maybe,
to like explain to someone without using the words and it's hard to explain like, well, yeah, you know, uh, I thought about driving my car off of the highway and "Oh, so you're suicidal?" I'm not though. I don't want to hurt myself, but this thought keeps coming in my head and it's not just a one-time random thing. So I think like I've had intrusive thoughts for a long time. I didn't know that's what they were. I don't even think my therapist knew that that's what they were.
yeah.
Um, so, uh,
Can I,
I
is,
go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna like with the racing and the intrusive thoughts, they kind of because racing thoughts usually is more like if I have bipolar 2, which as I describe it means I get the full depressive episodes, but I don't get any of the fun stuff. I just get hypomania. So I'm not going to like go to Vegas or anything like that. The racing thoughts often are with when I'm kind of manic but they can kind of fool me sometimes because sometimes I'll have like and I'm like, "Okay, these are like race," like I just in my head, I'm like going from one thing to another. And sometimes when I realize it, then I'm like, "Okay, so I'm probably manic." And then like the next day, then I'm having depression and I'm having intrusive thoughts. So I can't even figure and I mean, I'm 48 years old. For as long as I can remember, I have been dealing with some kind of mental health issues and I can't even figure myself out. So I can't imagine a therapist trying to do it. Let's see. One of the things that I did this past time that I have not ever done, I have a cousin who has been very open about their struggles. And so I reached out to our cousin and they were like, call that hotline. They're like, call that 988. And I also feel like okay, but because I mean, I've been in this place before where I'm like, I'm not suicidal, so I'm not an emergency case. Like, I don't wanna take those resources, but, like, I know they won't admit you to a hospital if you're like, "Well, I'm having intrusive thoughts and, like, I have plans, my brain has come up with plans to kill myself, but you don't really want to." Okay, that doesn't get you admitted for suicidal stuff. I've done intensive outpatient therapy, which is like group therapy, like 3 days a week, which I thought was actually really good, but the hotline, I had never done, and I don't know why. I mean, for one thing, it's fairly new. We didn't have that when I was a teenager. The hotline was very useful. The person that answered, and my cousin that told me about it had said, sometimes you get someone awesome, sometimes not so much. He's like, it's completely hit or miss. So, I called, I totally hit, and I got a woman that was very compassionate and just kind of just talked to me and was like, "Okay, so what do you think, like, what kind of a strategy can we come up with if these intrusive thoughts are really bothering you? Then what kind of a strategy can we come up with for you to switch to something else?" So, and I don't think that they're professionals. I think they're volunteers.
Do you know who answers that hotline?
I
They
do
have
not.
to be trained, though, if they're volunteers. They have to be trained.
I think that they're trained, but I don't think it's necessarily like a licensed social worker or doctor or some,
Interesting. It'd be interesting to know who does that. It's a really important job. Yeah.
I should have looked into to see more about it because the person that recommended it was very clear. Like, sometimes you get someone that's amazing, other times you get someone that you're like, this just isn't working and I'm not going to continue this. This past time, this was also, I think this was like a month or a month and a half. It's pretty recent that I had a really bad depressive episode. And this was the first time that I was completely honest and unfiltered, not just with I would never say to my parents, like, "I want to die." Like, I'm not gonna kill myself, but I don't wanna be alive, and I did this time. I did. I talked to my son about it as well, scared the bejesus out of him. He went and woke my parents up. And then I spoke to him the next day and I was because he went and woke my parents up and he was like, "My mom's suicidal." And they were like, "What exactly did she say?" So I talked to him the next day and I was like, "I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not." And I would never, like, I just wouldn't. And the biggest reason is him. I'm like,
Yeah.
I would never do that to you. But I also feel like he needs to know how serious it is. Like, this isn't just me being lazy and laying in bed. So, I now I can say with confidence that, like, I will not try and kill myself. I'm not suicidal. I have had previous attempts to kill myself. I mean, things like when I was in 7th grade and like I tried to numb my wrist and cut my wrist. That clearly wasn't an actual attempt. That was a call for attention and whatever. I did have a serious attempt in my early 20s. I walked to the grocery store and bought 3 bottles of Benadryl, like Simply Sleep, not Tylenol PM, just Simply Sleep, and a bottle of Sprite because I didn't want the caffeine. Make that make sense. Walked home, took a bunch of the pills, and then all of a sudden it occurred I was like, "Oh, who's gonna find me in the living room?" And I didn't want it to be my younger siblings, so I went and woke my parents up. I have no recollection after waking my parents up. I know that my dad had to have at least partially carried me because obviously I was sedated heavily, but I threw away the jeans that I was wearing that night because one of the belt loops had like ripped, I'm sure so they had to pump my stomach. I was intubated. I was in the ICU. Jennifer was in Europe at that time. So also very scary for you to like not be here and not be able to like just, pick up and come here. So at that
That was a
time,
big decision.
yeah.
I think
At
the
that
social worker at the time that was working with you, somebody at the hospital told mom and dad that I should not come in. I don't know if you knew that, but
uh No, I
I
think I
don't,
did.
there was a social worker that had a mild connection to our family. Is that the time?
Yes.
I think there was a social worker that had grown up with someone who mom was friends with,
Yes.
or was a sibling to someone who mom was friends with. And the social worker said, because I was living in Germany, I think this was before Lucille was born. I don't think I was pregnant or anything. And obviously, I was going to hop on a plane as fast as I could. And I believe the social worker said, like, you actually don't want to do this. I don't know if in today's world, if we would say, like, that's encouraging the behavior to, like, or reinforcing it or rewarding it. Like, I don't know if they would say that today. But at the time, there was some kind of a thought, like, if Jennifer flies home from Europe, that looks like, I don't
They
know, like we that's why I didn't come in. That's why I
Right.
didn't come
No,
home.
they I believe they said the same thing to Aunt Sarah as well, because she and I were really close at that time,
And she was
and
probably living in San Francisco.
yes, and there was a thing like, don't reinforce or reward, like, don't make so I'm sure things are very different now. I did not have insurance at that time. I didn't have health insurance, and we did not have good resources and options. And I mean, and our parents make decent money and were making decent money at that time, but even they didn't have the kind of money to be like, okay, well, we're going to put you in a private place or whatever. So the best that the social worker and the hospital could do was they sent me to a place that was actually like a rehab for addiction and recovery. And I was drunk when I did that. Um, and at that time I would for sure say I had a problem with drinking. Now I wasn't using other drugs at that time, but drinking was enough. And so they sent me to an addiction recovery place. And when I was like, this isn't what I need. Like, I tried to kill myself. I'm not having problems with alcohol and drugs. So I checked myself out. Like 2 hours in, I was like, okay, this is not for me. And then I started doing outpatient counseling through like the Johnson County Mental Health, through like our county, like the pay what you can afford thing. So I even when I was working, I probably still hardly paid anything. And that was honestly, that was a godsend for a lot of years. I had a really, really great therapist there that I could be completely honest with. She would call me out and be like, look, if you're depressed and you don't show up, I can't help you. She's like, I understand it's hard. I don't care if you show up in pajama pants. So let me see here's one of the other things I want to say. Like, I have had really, really great support in my family, my close friends for a long time. And it's not something that I can be like, well, I'm just not going to be depressed again because I'm taking my meds, I'm doing therapy, and I have a good support system. It's not like that. Like, I know there's going to be another time that I'm depressed. I've lost jobs over not being able to get up and go to work. I've lost friends. Oh, I mean, like, you can only ask someone so many times if they want to hang out or whatever. And if they're constantly like, no, I don't want to do it. And even if the reason is because that person is depressed, at some point you just stop asking. Let me see. One of the things that I think is really the hardest for me is even when I'm in a good place, like, right, like the reason we decided I approached Jen with it and I was like, hey, I think I'm ready to do this. And I was like, I don't want to do it when I'm in a bad place, because also when I'm depressed, my brain I'm not rational and logical. Like, I will be like, "Oh my god, everyone hates me." It's very much like, "I'm never ever gonna move out of my parents' house. Everyone hates me." Like, it's way bigger than myself. So, I wanted to do this now while it was still kind of fresh in my head, but also while I'm in a good place and I'm thinking rationally and logically. I think one of the hardest parts, though, is even when I'm in the thick of it, and even now when I'm not in the thick of it, I don't know what would help. Can't, when my parents say, like, what can we do to help you? I'm like, I don't know. And I cannot say enough. Like, I have really great family support systems. I can call Jennifer and literally not even say anything, just be sobbing on the phone. And she's like, okay, calm down. I mean, she sits there and
Yeah.
listens to me until I can form words. Our other sister does the same.
And sometimes what worked one time, there's never been a magic formula. It's never like, oh, I took Karen out to Loose Park and we took a walk, at a place that has historical significance to us, or like, it's not that simple. It's extremely, extremely, extremely complex. Something, whatever got you out of it the last time it may not ever work again.
Yeah.
It's not like that. It's not like, like I get eczema, and if I use the same lotion over and over again, my eczema doesn't come back. It's not like that. The formula that worked once may never work again. And sometimes we don't know what the formula is because there were a lot of hands in the pot. There's not usually just one.
Yeah. Um, I am looking through my notes again. I mean, I think one of the biggest things is depression looks, and I mean, I'm talking more specifically about depression and like major depressive episodes. I don't have like, I joke with my therapist when she's like, are you hearing voices? I'm like, no, I don't get any of the fun stuff. I'm not seeing shit that's not there. But depression looks so different every time for me. I mean, and I can't always recognize the signs of like what's happening. I can see when there's external factors. I do things, recently there was a job thing where I didn't get a job that I wanted. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to let this send me down a spiral. And I concentrate on finding the positive and whatever. But there could be another time that, Amazon not having the fucking cup that I want could send me spiraling. And it's like, it's not about the cup. It's that stuff was all building anyways. And that was going to happen no matter what. So I used to like what we call self medicate a lot. I drank a lot. I do not drink every once in a while. If someone's like, oh, this is really like, champagne is kind of the only thing that really tempts me that much. I mean, if someone's like, "Oh, this is a nice wine," I might take a sip or whatever, but a long time, I mean, it's been probably 15, 20 years. I mean, I basically was just I was like, "I have enough natural depressants in my body. I do not need to add anything else to it." And hangovers suck, and I don't miss drinking at all. I do self-medicate with a little gardening weed every once in a while. But recently, even with that, I have really cut back because although it helps more with anxiety than depression, to be honest. But even that, I'm kind of like, okay, well, I want to get to the point where all of my coping mechanisms are internal. And so, but I mean, some of this stuff is very typical. Like, yes, I self medicated. Yes, I was a crazy partier and I drank and things like that. I don't do any of that anymore and haven't for a long time. Let's see. I think that the biggest thing is like from an outside perspective. So, I mean, it's got to just feel helpless because I feel helpless and I'm the one in it. And when I have my parents, my sisters, my close friends, everyone being like, "What can we do?" Oh, I don't know. I mean, one of my friends will be like, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna like come over and either lay in bed with you or whatever." I mean, so he's like, "Just so you know, you're not alone." I'm like, "Okay, that works." So I think that's most of my dirty past. Actually, that's none of my dirty past. we've talked about this, and Jennifer has been very, very respectful. We've kind of talked about, like, we will get into this. I I just had to be in the right place, and I had to, and this was kind of the right place because it still is fresh in my mind. I'm not having intrusive thoughts or anything like that now, but I was like 3, 4 weeks ago, and I need to be in the right place. But I feel so strongly like this is legitimately an illness. Like my brain and neurotransmitters sometimes get off kilter and don't function the way that they're supposed to and the way that like normal people do or whatever. And I think it's important because I mean, and to be honest, as a nurse, I can tell you like just about every illness that we have is very personal. No two cancers look the same. No two diabetics look the same. No two people with depression look the same. Yes, there's some similarities, but Jen and I both feel really strongly also that like we've got to break this stigma. Like people have got to be able to openly talk about it and say, I called into a job and I was like, I'm having an anxiety attack about driving to work. And they were like, well, and I was like, no, like I can't drive to work today. Um, and I mean, I didn't lose that job over that, but we need to talk about it. And we're never going to figure out what works for more people and what is the common thread if everyone doesn't talk about it and say I mean, like the intrusive thoughts. I've been having those for decades, but I didn't have the words. I didn't know what that was. I remember like when I first learned and I was like, intrusive thoughts, what is that? Like someone's like, it's when like a thought, and I'm like, and the way someone explained it was like, it's when like a thought comes in your head and you're like, oh, I should totally get that Coach bag. Okay. That's not,
The same thing.
we are not the same. My intrusive thoughts are not about overspending. I mean, sometimes, but we just both felt really strongly and, yeah, that we wanted to be open about this.
Wanted to give you the time to say everything that you wanted to say. And I think if you've tuned in to our podcast before, you can recognize that this is completely different than the other ones because it's just, Karen's raw thoughts on this. And I didn't want to interrupt. I think it's a tough conversation to have. It's tough to sit here and listen to. And there was nothing in what you said that I hadn't heard before, but it's tough. It's tough to have to remember and relive it, especially the story about when you tried to kill yourself in your 20s. And then also when you scared Michael.
That was
Those are
really,
both, yeah, yeah, those are both difficult. I mean, the whole thing is not easy to listen to. And I was there in one way or another for every
yes.
step of this. I think you came on camera. We recorded an episode and you were very depressed. And we recorded a very short episode. I don't even remember what we talked about, but it was very pop culture something. It
Yeah.
was easy breezy because we didn't want to talk about anything that would be triggering. We mentioned that you were not feeling good, that you were having I think you said I'm having a depressive episode. I was really proud of you that day for doing that. I'm proud of you for doing this today. It's hard to listen to, and we will go back and put a trigger warning at the beginning of this episode because I don't want someone to tune in and think that we're going to talk about like reality.
Yes. Yeah, we definitely will put a trigger warning because I mean, it is hard to talk about it, and I mean, especially like it's really hard to hold myself accountable and be like, "No, I was so depressed that I said to my son, who's 17." I mean, like he's old enough that he gets it, and I was like, "Michael, most days I go to sleep, I don't want to wake up." I mean, and of course, I wish I could take that back. And I've said to him, I'm like, I would never do that. And I would never, ever do that to you. But yeah, I mean, I feel like with that, if we keep editing and making it seem like it's not as bad, it is as bad, and it impacts everyone. I mean, I remember talking to you about it this last time, and I was I just don't want to be here. Like, I do, and I'm like, it's a weird thing to be like, "No, I don't wanna hurt myself. I'm not suicidal. If I was in my car and there was a truck coming the wrong way, would I swerve? I don't know." I mean, and that's an awful place to be.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, I think, things like you had the conversation with your son, and then Michael knew what to do though. He went and got our parents out of bed. You guys are living at our parents' house. He went and got our parents out of bed. The reality is we've been telling Michael since he was quite young what he needs to do, what he needs to watch for with his mom. If your mom, you know, does this for several days in a row, you need to call Aunt and Grandpa or Aunt Jennifer or whatever, but you need to let somebody know that that's happening for days at a time. And it's not even always about that we're worried you're going to kill yourself, but it's also about like, are you able to take care of activities of daily living, like brushing your teeth, feeding yourself, feeding your son? Does your son get to school? Things like that. And so the reality is, because as a family unit, and as your tribe, we knew Michael has been aware since a very young age. And I mean, it was frightening, some of the times that the conversations that we would have with him over the years, but they had to happen. Like they were
I mean,
necessary.
there have been times when before when mom and dad were living in Chicago, they were here for, more than just a weekend or whatever, and I called and I was like, "We have to come over there." Like, I'm I'm feeding my child and his base I mean, I think it was the summertime, so I was like, "His needs are being met, but I'm not being a mom." Like, and I'm so lucky and so blessed that I have people that will help me do that, and that I can say, "I'm not okay, and I need help." And sometimes what I need the help with is with Michael. There's been times when I'm like, "I will get better, but, like, right now, my kid needs to feel loved because all I'm doing is feeding him and clothing him."
Yeah. Yeah. I think you've been really lucky. I don't know. I mean, I have had experience with other people who have had depression, but nothing as close as this, obviously. You coming to mom and dad and saying, like, I have to come stay at your house for a week or for a couple of days or, whatever, because that's been a mechanism that we've relied on around that we've relied on to, one, be able to gauge how you're doing, two, to see that, Michael's okay. And then three, like, figure out, is there a magic formula this time that's going to work? It's not a magic formula. It's literally like, sometimes it's just organically, this is when it was going to be better. Yeah, I mean, this is actually harder to do than I thought it would be for me. I don't know how it feels for you, but for me, this is harder to do than I thought it would be. I'm proud of you. I think it's an important conversation. I know one of the things in my house that we've talked about for a long time, in my house, Michael Phelps is a hero. My son was
Yeah.
competitive swimmer, and I think a little bit he wanted to be like Michael Phelps. Maybe that's where it started. But either way, like, Michael Phelps is like a local hero in our family. And I'll never forget when he did that really dark TV commercial laying in the bottom of an emptied out pool. And I don't know if you remember very much about it, but I've had other people in my very intimate circle who have struggled with depression. And I've had some really real and frightening situations with some of those people too. And I will never not be grateful to somebody like Michael Phelps, who was like literally one of the most successful human beings on the face of the earth. From the outside looking in, he had nothing to not be happy about. But he said he wanted to, I think, commercial. And he's also been a very outspoken person about like online, like BetterHelp.
Mhm.
I don't think it was BetterHelp, but he was a spokesperson for something online therapy. And I remember at the time saying, like, this is what we need, is we need people who the rest of us all think are like fucking great. Like, there's no reason. We need people like him to say, like, "Even me." I even me. Another example, and it also, like, again, like, it needs to be men. Like, it's not that women aren't moving the conversation forward, but we've been being called hysterical for more than a century.
Are you gonna
We
talk
need
about
men.
Justin Bieber?
I'm literally getting there.
Love
I will
him.
again, another I will never not be grateful for Justin Bieber. Like, I don't know if he publicly went through that, and maybe he's going through it again right now. I'm not sure. I loved seeing photos of Justin Bieber like crying on, like he was on a bike ride, and the paparazzi caught him crying on the sidewalk. He was not okay, and he said he was not okay. And they were like snapping pictures of him like animals. But I love it. I'm sorry that people like Michael Phelps and Justin Bieber had to go through that because I know what it's like to be in the trenches of that. I'm sorry that they've had to go through that, but I appreciate that they publicized it. I think that's a really important step to take. Simone Biles is another one. You know, she said like I have the I think they call it the twirlies in gymnastics. She was like, I have the
The
twirlies and
twisties,
I
yes.
twisties, and he said, like, I'm not okay." And, you know, again, like, beacon of strength, someone who's at the top of their game and wasn't okay. And I think it makes it a little bit more normal or more acceptable for somebody like you. Not that you're not at the top of your game, but your game is not public for everyone to see. I
Right.
think it makes it a little easier for someone like you or someone like, college students or, young, whatever, young or old adults, perimenopausal women, whatever it is. I think it makes it a little bit easier to say I'm not okay. I think the conversation has to shift. We have to treat it the way that we treat like eczema was the example I gave earlier.
Yeah,
We have to treat it the same way that we treat like eczema. Like I had skin cancer. Like it has to be treated like that. It has to be that norm. I think we're closer than we've ever been before. And I think like alcoholism, addiction, disorders, things like that. I think we're more and more and more recognizing those are really actually scientific and biological and not just, like, oh, you took too much drugs and now you're addicted. It's not just that. And I think depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, which I thankfully you don't have. But I think those things need to get there. And I think it takes doing what you've done to move the conversation forward and to just have people see like, you were on camera. Like that wasn't real life. You didn't feel as good as you faked it on camera. You didn't look great, but you came on camera, you faked it. I think there's a lot of us that are faking it every day. And I think, that's what it takes is to say like, I did it, but that wasn't the true snapshot. That wasn't the true picture.
right. I think it takes, not just for me, but we have to have more people that are like you that are like, okay, just because I haven't been through it doesn't make it not real. Like I mean our mom says that. She's like, I don't know what it feels like. I mean, and she's like, I've been sad. I've never been depressed. And she's like, I don't know what it feels like, but I see in you that you're not okay. And I think we need to have more people like that that are like, look, this isn't like some because I'm weak or something like that. It's literally my brain fires a little bit differently.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't want to belabor the point, but I mean, you're very fortunate because we do come from a good family. And on top of that, in particular, like Jason, like I'll never,
Yeah.
no talk behind your back, so to speak. Like like mom's calling me, like, have you talked to Karen? Are you aware how bad she is? I'm like, yeah, actually, Jason called a few weeks ago or a few days ago, or, I talked to Mike this morning. Like there's a whole network of like this whole like web of conversations happening around you, checking in. Like I did talk, like, there may be a like, has anybody talked to Karen today? Not like a text message. Like, has anybody talked to Karen today? Look, nobody's talked to her since 10 o'clock last night. Nope. Megan talked to you at noon. Like there's a lot of that. There's a, it, like, I don't want to say it takes your whole tribe to keep you going, but sometimes it takes your whole tribe to get you going. And there are probably people in that tribe that like I forget about, you forget about, like, and it varies. I mean, sometimes Mike is not involved because he's busy with something in his own life and he's just unavailable. Or maybe I'm busy, I've got something going on with my kids and I'm not as involved this time around, or whatever it is. The tribe, like the players are a little variable, but
Yeah.
mostly it's the same. I think having been raised in the age that we were, and like, I don't even know if we had a word for mental health.
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
think we had the word mental health.
No, we were just crazy.
I mean, bipolar wasn't called bipolar back then. It was called manic depressive.
Yes.
And I don't like, we just didn't have it. Whether the information existed, like in the world of psychology, it might have existed, but it wasn't accessible for people like us. Like it
No.
wasn't, and our parents are, were educated later in life. And honestly, like are, they have an accounting and a history degree. They don't have degrees that would really benefit this, except to say because they are college educated, they understand how to find information, and that, you know, helps.
Right.
But yeah, it was something that nobody in our family was really ready for or equipped for, and we just all had to figure it out as we went along. And I'm sure huge mistakes were made along the way. I have no doubt.
Right. But I mean, and
Yeah.
some of it is it's not even just our family didn't have the words for it. Like no one and we as a society didn't have the words for it. It was like you said, it's just, well, she's just being hysterical. I cannot tell you how many times we have been like, no, I'm just really in a dark place and I'm not just calling men out, men and women. Are you on your period? That's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean I am and
I mean, honestly, this started for you long before adolescence, long before puberty.
yeah. I mean it did. Way that's when I
Uh-huh.
say like no, I like in hindsight looking back, I'm like no, like I remember crying uncontrollably in like first or second grade because I grew out of my favorite pair of loafers. I was upset about this for like a week. Um I mean and
That's
we
not normal. I mean, that's not normal behavior. That's behavior today that we would be like, what does that mean?"
Right. And also at that time, I probably was just like, "Nothing, I'm fine." And they're like, "Oh, she's just being dramatic."
Mhm.
Um, I mean, so much has changed. I'm thankful all the time. I was so, so lucky and so blessed. Like I had family that let me live with them and my child so that I could go back to school and get a degree and stuff. My parents have no one has ever if I reach out and say like, I used to sometimes call, mom's mom I would call Grandma Cox and just be like, "Can I just come over and just lay on your sofa?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course." And I mean, I think she knew, like I was laying there crying, watching I Love Lucy with her.
Yeah.
I mean, so I also see like, yes, I've had the fuzzy end of the lollipop on some of it, but I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have people that
Yeah.
supported me and that saw that this isn't something I can just snap out of.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, I mean, I can get a little feisty. And, now at this age, I can be like, I don't need to act like that. Like, I can calm down. Not the same thing, but I can calm down if I tell myself. And you're not always able to. I mean, it's just completely different. It's not just a mood.
Right.
And I go
So
ahead.
I can't even remember who it was, but there was someone that was like, well, the difference between sadness and depression is like sadness is something you're upset about a transient situation or, something that will get better or you will get over. Depression doesn't come from anything outside. It comes from internal. And, like, that's I mean, that to me is what the biggest difference is, like, because there's times when I can handle certain sad things fine and just handle it like how, everyone else is handling it, but then other times, if I'm in a bad place, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good definition. I would say that aligns with what my experience has been, at least with you. I think that's yeah. Yeah. I think did you have anything else you wanted to say about it?
No, I am good.
All right, how are you feeling?
I feel kind of accomplished, actually. It was hard, it was really hard to be honest and say that I scared my kid, but I also I mean, again, I just feel like it's very I think the light bulb just burned out in my lamp.
There you have emotion left?
I know. Even the light bulbs in my life go dark sometimes. No, I feel a lot better. How do you feel?
Feel okay. I'm proud of you. I think I mean, I knew this would be difficult to listen to. I knew it would be difficult for you to talk about it. I worked really hard to I mean, I know I did kind of interrupt a couple of times, but I worked really hard to only interrupt very minimally to let your flow of information happen the way you wanted it to. So I mean, I'm proud of you. I think this is good. Good job.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. So next week, let's have something less
We will come
heavy.
back with something fun next week.
Yes. So if anyone has any ideas for something ridiculous and fun to talk about, please put it in the comments. Thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you think about this the next time you see someone struggling and you just reach out. And I mean, sometimes literally there's nothing you can do except say like, "Okay, well, just know if you think of something, I'm here."
I think thank you everybody for sticking with us while we went through this. I think this was really important for Karen to do. And I again, like I'm proud of you. I know it's a tough conversation to have. I mean, we don't even always talk this deeply about it. So good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. And thank you again for being one of the many people, but you're kind of one of my main people. Cause like I said, you, for whatever reason, you can even say the stuff that's hard for me to hear in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. In
So
the network of conversations behind your back, there are times that they're like, Jennifer, you're gonna have to call her. This is what you're gonna have to say. I'm like, okay.
yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, I think over the years we've fallen into like there's a role that our other sister has. There's a role that I have. And sometimes my role isn't necessary this time, or sometimes Megan's role isn't necessary this time. But there's kind of certain things that fall to me. There are certain things that might fall to dad. I think that's something that's evolved over time. I don't think anybody thought that we were gonna have assignments, but we kind of do. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And it seems to work. It just still takes a village.
yeah, yeah.
So thank you guys for listening. I really do appreciate it. And if you would like to share anything about your own personal stuff, you are welcome to comment. And you can also, if you don't want to share it publicly and you just want to say, like, hey, I totally get it, shoot us an email. My sister is a Karen@gmail.com. I think that's it. All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Take
Love
care.
you.
Love you.
Bye.